So you finally finish your mix. You throw a limiter on the master and you push it until it's hitting 0 dB. Now you think it sounds loud until you start comparing with your favorite song. And not only is theirs louder, it also sounds cleaner. Here's the thing, it's not your limiter. It's not your master chain. It's the way your mix is built. And the solution to this problem is actually pretty easy. So I want to show you the secret how you could have loud and clean every single time. I want you to listen to these two and tell me which is louder. Now our eyes would tell us that these two were the exact same thing. They're both hitting 0 decibels. But your ears would clearly tell you that the second example was louder. And that's because loudness isn't about peak volume. It's about perceived volume and balance. LUFS measures how loud an instrument or your mix sounds to the human ear. It isn't just measuring peak volume. It's taking a measurement of the loudness and volume of your sounds over time. And the more balanced and controlled your sounds are, think synths, drums, vocals, the higher that LUFS measurement can be, and the louder your mix can be without distortion. But here's the big mistake that most producers make. They're chasing loudness at the end of their process, the master, by absolutely crushing a limiter. And that doesn't actually make your mix louder, it almost flattens it, makes it smaller. Instead, great mixes will build loudness in layers. They shape and control dynamics through the mix using these three tools. You do a little bit here, you do a little bit there, and in the end, the cumulative effect is what we hear. That's actually how to make music loud and clean. And now I just want to show you how to use those tools to do this. Let's start with the first stage of building loudness, and that's compression. Compressors can do a lot, but in terms of modern production, we really use them for this one thing, and that is to balance dynamics over time. We used to use compressors to shape sounds, tighten up a kick or snare, add more punch. But honestly, because we use so many samples today, most of those have already been processed to be perfect. There's not much left to shape. If you needed to, you'd probably just choose a better sample, right? So we tend to use compression now more like a performance tool to smooth out jumps or changes in volume so there's a more consistent level for the listener. This process also increases loudness and perceived volume. Let's use our eyes for a second and look at the inconsistencies in the volume of this vocal. Now let's say I didn't have a compressor. How would I fix this? Well, I'd probably use my volume fader, and when the vocal gets quiet, I would raise the volume. When the vocal gets too loud, I will pull the volume back. Well, that's basically what a compressor is going to do for us. It's going to create consistency in that vocal volume level, the performance of that vocal. Now, the same concept could be used for synths. These could be rhythmic patterns, or even take a synth where maybe the filter is opening up over time. Naturally, that's going to get louder and brighter, and a compressor can keep that excitement under control. You still get the movement and sound of the filter opening, but you're not going to get that drastic change in volume when it opens. Now, if compression like this intimidates you, I would recommend starting with an optical compressor. They're slow, they're smooth, they're super forgiving. It's usually just a threshold and a gain knob, and that's it. Finally, once you've balanced the individual sounds with compression that need it, you can also take those similar sounds, put them together in a group, and use bus compression. Or another word you might have heard before is glue compression, glue them together. So think of it like this. You have a bunch of individual sounds in, let's say, the drum group, doing their own dynamic things, different rhythms and grooves. But when we run them through a group compressor, what's going to happen is they're all now going to start to move through those attack and release settings that the compressor has. So they sort of pump as one unit, one drum kit, even though they were all individually doing their own dynamic things. That's what's typically meant when we say glue them together, or what we're trying to achieve with bus compression. It's this cohesive sound because now everything is moving with one continuous shape. Next, let's talk about clippers, which are completely different, but super valuable in our pursuit for loud and clean. We're gonna use them to shape transients so that our limiter doesn't freak out in the end. Think of it like trimming the sharp edges off your sounds in the mix. Typically, there are a lot of these crazy peaks that jump out, but imagine we can remove them and create all of this extra headroom and things sound exactly the same. Clearly, this drum loop has some excessive peaks, and we can also see the peak value here on this meter. And I'm gonna start to bring the clippers threshold down to remove some of these peaks and watch and listen to what happens. Do you see how the waveform looked smaller, yet it sounded exactly the same? The part we're removing is extreme peak volume. It's so fast and instantaneous that our ear can't understand it. It can't really hear it and gauge its level. So these peaks exist and they eat up a lot of headroom and volume, but they don't really provide audible value. That's the problem. So this brings up the big question: how much should we clip? There's no magic number. I think the better approach is to just listen. If you bring that threshold down and you notice you can hear distortion, you've probably gone too far. Back up a little. Between my eyes and ears, I would like to see the peak come down, but when I flip that plugin on and off, I would like it to sound exactly the same. So clippers work well on those really peaky, transient sounds like drums, even sometimes your instruments. However, if you find when you try this, you're just getting distortion immediately, then you might need to go to our next tool on the list. Let's talk limiters, but first we have to understand what they actually do. Limiters and clippers both stop a sound from going past a certain ceiling, but they do it in completely different ways. A clipper just cuts off the waveform. It's tight, it's aggressive, whereas a limiter compresses those peaks gradually, so it sounds a little bit smoother and less noticeable. That's why limiters are a bit more forgiving. Let me show you an example of this. So I want you to think about the role of a limiter from a bigger picture standpoint. It's not used to make sounds loud, but instead to keep them controlled when they get loud. This is similar to clipping, but instead of chopping it, it compresses it, which sounds a bit smoother. That makes it perfect for individual sounds that might be spiking hard, where the clipper is just too gritty, too distorted. Or we'll even use these limiters at the end of our master chain to prevent those peaks from going beyond 0 decibels. Together, these three tools build loudness in layers. You're not smashing one plugin to do everything. You're doing little bits of dynamic control step by step, so in the end, your mix is not just loud, but it also sounds clean and musical. Let me show you one final example where I've applied these three tools across multiple stages. If you like this video, YouTube is going to recommend another one they think you would absolutely love on screen right now. So tap that, there's always more to talk about, and I will meet you in the next video.